All right, it's time for another operation of the Fly Guys show. And tonight we're gonna deal with a couple of things, particularly the empowerment agenda. So I'm Seko Varner, and as you know, I've been talking for a while about the empowerment agenda, and that simply means that for the next decade, we're going to focus on things that are going to empower us. We're going to spend our monies in ways that advances our agenda. We're going to eat and act in ways that advances our agenda. We're going to politically act in a way that advances our agenda. And that's where we are tonight, acting politically in a way that advances our agenda. So I have a belief, and it's been educated belief. It's been educated by people like Tariq Nasheed, Professor Black Truth, Jason Black, the Black Authority, Yvette Carnell, Antonio Moore. So I look at what ADOS has discussed, Afrosynergy, T. West of Afrosynergy, the Conscious Rastakiti. So I've looked at what ADOS has in their ADOS 101 agenda, and I like it. I looked at T. West's 21-point plan for Black Americans and his political agenda, and I like it. And I follow Professor Black Truth, Tariq Nasheed, and Jason Black, the Black Authority, and their foundational Black B1, Be First approach. I like it. I like those things. And I'm trying to find a way to comprehensively work with us, because I know there's a couple of things. There are going to be some of us. There are going to be some of us who are going to vote either red or blue. There are going to be some of us who will vote in agenda, like myself. There'll be some of us who are only going to vote on as an independent. There's some who are not voting at all. They're not voting at all. They're just not going to vote. And then there's some that can't vote. So I see those 5 categories. Those who can't vote, those who are not going to vote at all, those who vote independently, those who vote on an agenda, and those who are tied to the red and blue, the Democrat or the Republican Party. So the empowerment agenda is an approach that allows all of us to kind of work in a way that empowers all of us. So the foundational Black Americans, if you look at their approach, they're saying, hey, unless you bring the tangibles, you're not getting our vote. And that's something that when, Charlemagne the God spoke with Vice President Biden, that came up. And that's been the talk of the town recently about his statement about, if you don't vote for me, then you're not Black. Okay. So that tells me that our positioning is really having an effect. And I've known this for a while. So when I look at the Black media and I look at what Tariq Nasheed is doing, Yvette Carnell is doing, what Antonio Moore is doing, what ADOS is doing, what Afrosynergy is doing, I see, now you may have noticed I left out a few notable people, okay? But I see the more progressive people who are saying we have to stand up for an agenda, and if you don't stand up for the agenda, we're not rocking with you. And so the empowerment agenda, that approach, which embodies and includes foundational Black Americans and the ADOS 101 and the 21-point plan for Black America, it kind of takes all of that in and says there's a place and a space for every one of us in this empowerment agenda. There's a place and a space for every one of us in this empowerment agenda. So when politicians have stepped up within the last 2 years, great work for people like ADOS and Foundational Black Americans in doing this and pushing this agenda in terms of the term reparations. You notice in the last political romp that a lot of the candidates were talking about things that were not popular to talk about. And, Bernie Sanders said, reparations, what's that? I'm not for that. Okay, he's out of there. Kamala Harris, I'm not going to do something specifically that helps Black people. She's out of there. So everyone else who had an issue with things that effect that are impacted by us, people of African descent, whatever term you want to use. They didn't make the cut. They didn't make the cut. For some reason, Joe Biden did. And Joe Biden, his policies really haven't been beneficial to us over the long run. What he said has been pretty, but what he's done over the long run hasn't. But none of them are politically clean, and none of them totally have our agenda in hand. This is what the empowerment agenda says: good or bad, beautiful or ugly, we're going to push our agenda more so than we push a person. It's not the agent, the candidate, the seated politician, that agent. It's not the agent, it's the agenda, is what we're voting on. So those of us who are moving in this direction, we're not voting for Trump or we're not voting for Biden. We're voting for the agenda. And if Trump supports the agenda, or if Biden supports the agenda, or when we look at the senatorial races and the congressional races, if they support the agenda, then they get our support. So we're not supporting the agent, we're supporting the agenda. Like this mayor who's on the screen right now, this mayor said some things that was kind of incredible for me to see, that he stood up and said this young man who was killed by the police officers was handled incorrectly. It was a miscarriage. It was a misjustice. It should never have happened. Those types of things normally don't happen. And I'm wondering if this mayor's, you see him there. I'm worried for him because he may not get reelected now. And he probably took that worry as well. But he stood up to the bat and said that people putting their knees on that young man's neck was not acceptable. So now, not only are they doing an investigation on Mr. Floyd's death, those 4 police officers that were included were now terminated. Whoa, terminated here in America? That this young man here, this mayor, terminated those 4 police officers. Here's one of them. He's the one that had his neck on the young man. Were terminated. That shows that our actions towards pushing our interest works. This shows that us pushing our interest works. So I'm so glad that Charlemagne spoke to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden just kind of rambled and shared his truth. He really spoke his truth. Now, once again, we're not voting for Biden or Trump. We're voting for the agenda. So whoever rocks with the agenda is who we need to support. A lot of people got on President Obama's case saying that he didn't do enough for us. But the truth is, we never pushed enough. While those who got things pushed during the Obama presidency are those who received things. Those who asked, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So we're going to get real squeaky right now. And this is going to be challenging for many of us because too many of us have kind of grown. I'm including myself as well. I grew up thinking I had to vote. I had to vote. My ancestors died for me to vote. They had died for me to have the right to vote. And now our ancestors want us to use that right to vote in the most powerful way possible, which is saying, candidates, politicians, if you want what we have, you have to do what we want. If you want what we have, you have to do what we want. That's what our ancestors want us to do with the right that they fought for. They don't want us to vote for the less of 2 evils. They don't want us to vote for evil. They want us to vote for our agenda. I want us to vote for our agenda. So whether your agenda is the ADOS 101 agenda, and you can find that at ADOS 101, and Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore have done an excellent job in putting that together. There's some things that I don't necessarily totally embrace, and there's some things I do embrace. One thing I do embrace is their definition of ADOS. When it comes to reparations for people of African descent in America, it should go to the descendants of those who were enslaved. It shouldn't go to everybody who's a person of African descent. It should go to those who are the descendants of the enslaved. Now, that will include a few white people whose families have, because they were lighter, brighter, damn near whiter, were able to enter white society as Caucasians. Okay. So that will include some of them. It will include some people who call themselves Native American. It will include them. It's not the reparations for people who are American slave is going to have, primarily three different groups. There'll be primarily black people, there'll be some Native Americans who get it, and there'll be some whites. But the deal is, the United States of America owes that. And ADOS 101 does a really good job of describing down. They say that your ancestry, your lineage had to go through the enslavement and the Jim Crow era for you to be somebody that they consider as being somebody who would be eligible. And I hate using that term eligibility, but yeah, they would look for somebody who would be eligible. Now, the foundational Black American, their approach is a little different. They're saying, give us the reparations. Give us the things we're asking for, or we're not voting for anybody. So the empowerment agenda is kind of a mix of the two. So I support this, Mayor. Yeah, I like what you did, Mayor. The empowerment agenda is a kind of a mix of the two, because I realize there are people who can't vote. There are people who are not going to vote. There are people who are going to vote on an agenda, people who are going to vote independent, and people who are going to be voting along party lines. So let's go through that very quickly. If you can't vote, legally you can't vote, you just came here to this country, or maybe for some other legal reasons you're unable to vote, you can support those of us who are able to vote. And you can also say to those candidates, hey, candidate, hey, seated politician, I'm unable to vote, but your decisions impact me. What are you going to do about criminal justice? What are you going to do about immigration that helps America? What are you going to do about this? So those of us who cannot vote, we have a strategy. We have a place in this. Those who don't vote, the most important thing you can do, if you're going to say, I ain't voting, man, F the vote. If you're going to say that, then register to vote and don't vote. Because your non-participation will speak volumes. Your non-participation will help those of us who do vote say, look, your benign neglect, government of America, your benign neglect has left people who were eligible to vote who decided that there was nothing in it for them. So if you're one of the people that are like, man, I ain't voting, cool, please get registered and then sit it out. If you're an independent voter, then as an independent voter, your job is to send out to all the candidates. What are you going to do based on this agenda? What are you going to do based on this agenda? And get your feedback. Get your feedback and share that. If you're an agenda-based voter, then you really got to go hard on the agenda. Us agenda-based voters really have to push everyone else to make sure they know what the agenda items are. Now, ADOS 101 has their agenda. Foundational Black Americans, they're going to have a conference in June, and after that conference, they'll be releasing their agenda. The empowerment agenda is going to be released in mid-June. So, you've heard me talk about the empowerment agenda. The actual empowerment agenda will be released mid-June. So we have a little time to work with. But you can also do the same work yourself. Now, those who are blue no matter who, or red, enough said, if you're definitely going to vote for, President Trump, or you're definitely voting for Biden, that's cool. What you need to do, what we need you to do, is to ask your favorite, your favored person, your politician, what are you going to do about these items? I'm already voting for you. What are you going to do about these items? That's what we need done. So we have those who can't vote, those who are not going to vote, those who are independent in their approach, those who are agenda-based in their approach, and those who are stuck on party lines. We can work together to make sure that things that improve our lives are the foundation of any campaign right now. We can do that, but we have to be strong enough to say that we're going to stand up for us. We're not voting for a blue or a red. We're voting for us. We're not voting for a Trump or Biden. We're voting for us. And those of us who are voting for Trump or Biden, you still got to put us first. We still need you to put us first. You still can put us first. And the way you do that is by asking that favored politician candidate, what are you going to do for us? What are you going to do for us? So I mentioned that I really like this mayor who stood up and said that this life should not have been taken. He said it should not have been taken. That wouldn't have happened in America without the work that's been done through the black media. This police officer was fired. That normally doesn't happen. The same day that this young man was murdered, the same day. Now, I see some signs that are saying Black Lives Matter. Let's talk about that very quickly. The empowerment agenda is inclusive for all the groups that are working to make sure that America is a better place, our world is a better place. Black Lives Matter is focused firmly on police overreach, on situations that you see in this picture. That's what they're focused on. We need to stop saying Black Lives Matter and connected with abortion. We need to stop saying Black Lives Matter and talking and connected with community crime. We need to stop using the hashtag Black Lives Matter when it doesn't apply. They have a very fixed area where it does apply, because our loose use of the term and phrase and hashtag has enabled people who don't want us to move forward to hold us back. So get in code, get on code. The code is empowerment. Everything that we're doing now has to empower us. It has to empower. What you eat needs to empower you. What you drink needs to empower you. How you vote needs to empower you. How you spend your money needs to empower you. How we handle our political resources needs to empower us. So if you're blue, no matter who, talk to your blue folk and say, what are you going to do for us? The same way Charlemagne the God did. If you're red, enough said, if you're a MAGA hat wearer, that's cool. Ask President Trump, what are you going to do for us? And we're going to get some pushback. That's cool. I had somebody say to me the other day, well, President Trump has done more for so-called black people in America than anyone else. And I said, no, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. President Trump has done some things that have been great for the United States of America. And those of us who live in America who are of African descent have benefited from that. But he didn't do anything specific for us to deal with some of the challenges that we have that are long-standing and come from decades and generations and centuries. No, he hasn't done that. He's done what's good for America right now, or he's tried to. And some people can debate on that. That's cool. I'm not a supporter. I'm not a detractor when it comes to any of the presidents. You know, not a supporter, not a detractor. I'm glad that my investments were doing so well, and I'm sure my investments will come back. So my point is, I'm not focused on the agent. I'm focused on the agenda. And if more of us get focused on the agent and not the agenda, we'll get more work done. So when this person walks around and they're running for the school board or for the city council or for a Senate race or congressional seat, what are you going to do for us? Not that, yeah, I know that person's a great person. He looks out for the community. He's going to do well. No, what are you specifically going to do? Because, you know, I have an inkling to support you, but you got to support us first. We have to put us first now. This is a pivotal time. It's time to put us first. Get on code, work the agenda. Get on code, work the agenda. Once again, salute to this mayor who stood up and said it was doing the right thing. Get on code. It's time. I'm Seko Varner. This is the Fly Guy Show, where we have conscious melanated conversations about things that will improve our collective situation. Today we're talking about the empowerment code. Get on code. Listen to Tariq. Listen to Professor Black Truth. Listen to Jason Black, the Black Authority. Listen to Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore from Adolph's 101. Listen to Afri Synergy News, T West. Listen to the Conscious Roster. Brother Keedy, I'm just a student. I'm only a student. But these masters have found the information that we need, the strategies that we need. Look for these agendas to come out soon. And y'all stay fly. Stay fly. Stay fly.